We all want Outward 2. Thankfully, it's en route. In between now and that fated release, the team behind the original Outward are making a very different game. And it's got some fans going,
"You what?"
Look, I want the sequel as much as the next Trog Spawn.
Rise and shine, Trog Spawn.
But the demo for their next game is already out, and it's already doing what Outward did for me. Take a genre I hadn't much experience with, and make me love it. This is 5 reasons why Outward fans will love 9 Dot Studios' new game, Lost in Prayer. Lost in Prayer is a traditional roguelike. Unlike roguelites with a T like Hades, there's no meta progression here. Where Hades lets you get stronger the more you play by spending darkness at the Mirror of Night, Lost in Prayer goes, now get good. Hear me out, have you considered just getting good though? The unique selling point of the game is that you can play as whatever kills you. Whatever kills you. Monsters, other stuff, who knows? Each character unlocked has its own unique skill tree with stat loadouts that differ from the rest of the cast. After you decide on your character for the run, you get to choose between 2 types of dungeons, heaven and hell, each with their own pool of enemies and obstacles. But how on earth is this related to running through the Chersonese dying of cold? Let me tell you. Builds. I love build crafting in Outward. I'd start my new runs with a faction quest line and all 3 breakthrough skills already planned out. Whether it was my first playthrough or my 5th, pouring through skill trees to learn my options and plan my build, it was a huge selling point of the game for me. Oh, speaking of skill trees, Lost in Prayer's got skill trees. At the time of recording, the game only has a playable demo out, but the demo alone has 26 characters to unlock and play, each with their own unique trait. Deciding which skills to go with is only one element of the build too. Many things fit into build consideration. Which character are you starting with? Which random gear did you pick up? What stats did you spec into every level? As you jump into the fun of unlocking new characters by dying to them, you can't help but learn enough along the way to get you to the end. All these build considerations tie into our next point, replayability. There's good reasons why we come back to Outward. If you're playing the definitive edition, you get to choose one of 4 potential branches on the main quest line, each with their own missions and exclusive items, abilities, and lore as rewards. Being allowed to commit to the full skill trees of only 3 out of 11 trainers incentivizes extra runs to be able to experience the strongest skills of all trainers. Enchantments, accessible from the Sorborians DLC, are pretty resource heavy, making it difficult to enchant many pieces of weapons and gear in the same playthrough. In comparison, Lost in Prayer has significantly more replayability. The randomness inherent in the genre alone keeps things really fresh. Enemy types and quantity fluctuate based on the dungeon chosen. Gear and consumable drops are random in variety and quality. Dungeons are procedurally generated with different sizes of corridors and rooms, including hazard tiles and obstacles. Not to mention the depth of the cast in the demo alone. The demo sits at 26 characters before the larger cast present into the early access and then the full release. If you enjoyed the Wendigo always being on the move in the Chersonese, this game leans heavily into that feeling. All this complexity brings us to our next point, learning curve. When I lost my house in Zierzo from blood debt for the very first time, if you told me in that moment that I would come to consider Outward as my all-time favorite game, I would have been afraid of you. I would have been frightened at how little sense you were making. And yet it did become my favorite game. Whether a friend, a comment section, or your own grit told you to stick with the game and see what it had to offer, many people that stuck with it through the learning curve were happy they made that choice. Lost in Prayer, being a traditional roguelike, has a definite learning curve. It respects players' intelligence, not over-explaining mechanics in favor of players experiencing the joy of discovering themselves. This is not an oversight in design or an accidental similarity to Outward. It's one of the studio's core philosophies across all of its games. Many times in the demo, I was shocked by an enemy using an ability on me because I didn't read the details of the ability at a distance before getting into the fight. I didn't slow down and consider what the combination of the angel's grapple ability meant before standing next to a pit, and I was pulled into oblivion. I didn't pay attention to the fact that the gear I just put on not only increased my attack, but decreased my accuracy. When I missed an attack that would have kept me alive, I remembered what I did, and I learned the hard way. Lost in Prayer is a game of inches. Making progress will often be due to players utilizing the knowledge they themselves gleaned the hard way and keeping that in mind for future runs. Now, what game does that remind you of? Or nuanced progression. Who has put too many points into mana the first time they found a ley line in Outward? Looking at you, Roland. Looking at you, man. Thematically, I love that magic in Outward is powerful, but you have to give a piece of yourself to attain that power. Mechanically, spending health and stamina to receive mana was an exciting consideration. Straight upgrades to your character are fun, but benefits that come with a cost are much more interesting, at least to me. Lost in Prayer is built around benefits having costs much more than Outward, and I love that. In Lost in Prayer, every level Love grants you 3 points to put into stats. This is where it gets interesting. You cannot simply put points into, say, attack, and only attack goes up and you just call it a day. Every stat allocated increases at least 1 stat, while also decreasing at least 1 stat. Staying with the Heaven Hell theme, each of these bundles, these stat bundles, are named after sins and virtues. For instance, putting points into the Chastity bundle increases your attack and dodging, but it also decreases your special stat. Putting points into Greed increases your HP and defense, while also decreasing your attack and critical power. Sure, you can increase your HP and accuracy with Temperance, but since it lowers your speed, monsters might start getting 2 full turns in between your turn. There's a lot to consider, but it is manageable after a couple of runs. The sins and virtues also tie into equipable gear. All throughout the dungeon, there's random gear to find and pick up. All of these weapons and armor are associated with a random sin or virtue. Equipping that piece of gear increases and decreases your stats the same way putting a stat point into that bundle would. Equipping a piece of, say, the Chastity pauldrons or shoulder gear, much like the Chastity bundle, increases your attack and dodging while decreasing your special. This all sounds like a lot, but I personally remember when taking on a single hyena in Outward felt impossible. They lunge so far. What is this disease? They give diseases? What does that mean? I love not understanding a game at first, because when I do figure it out, it feels amazing. It's what made me love Outward, and it's making me love Lost in Prayer too. Final point, and far away the most important, you can play as a little truck. Dude, look at him.
Bruh.
Come on. I went into Lost in Prayer with fairly low expectations, if I'm being totally honest with you. It certainly didn't look like Outward, and I had no experience with the studio outside of that one title. So maybe it wouldn't be for me. That's what I was thinking. After close to 30 hours in the demo alone, feeling like I haven't scratched the surface, it started changing a little bit. After turning over that proverbial rock and noticing several similarities to the game I already love, there is not a doubt in my mind that this game will hit for Outward fans if they just gave it a shot. It comes out in early access on July 15th. Subscribe for more Lost in Prayer and Outward videos, and follow on Twitch. We're streaming Lost in Prayer every Tuesday for the foreseeable future. Thank you so much for watching.